All right, let's get right into it. We all think we know the story of Stingy Jack, right? The guy who tricked the devil and got locked out of both heaven and hell. But what if we've been looking at it all wrong? What if it's not some spooky cautionary tale? What if it's the origin story of a god? That's what we're digging into today, how Jack's so-called curse was actually the ultimate act of self-creation.
And boom, right out of the gate, this quote just flips the entire script. He's not crying, he's not begging, he's laughing. Think about that for a second. That's not the sound of some poor damned soul. No way. That is the sound of a man who just realized he's totally, completely, and utterly free.
So that's the big question, isn't it? How does eternal damnation turn into total liberation? Well, this is the first big idea we have to wrap our heads around. It's all about how Jack saw his own fate. He wasn't looking at a prison. He was looking at a wide-open field with no fences in sight.
And this slide just lays it out perfectly. On the one side, you've got the old way of thinking, the old law, a lonely purgatory, a punishment for a barren soul. The source material calls this the language of slaves, for people who need a master to tell them what's what. But then, look at Jack's side. That lonely purgatory? Nah, that's vast, infinite freedom. The punishment, it's a cosmic tabula rasa, a completely blank slate. For him, all those old rules about good and bad, reward and punishment, they're just dead. They don't apply anymore. And you gotta remember, this wasn't some snap decision he made after he was kicked out. Jack had already proven he doesn't play by the rules. This is the guy who told the ultimate authority, the devil himself, no, not once but twice, and won. So he wasn't just cast out of the system, he had already found the cracks and broken it wide open.
Okay, so if the curse is actually freedom, then what about the stuff that came with it? The burning coal, the turnip? Well, they weren't chains, they were tools. And this is where we get to the real start of his transformation, the spark of self-ignition. And it all happens in 3 key steps. First, you have the breach. That's his initial defiance, saying no to the devil. Then, the spark. That single piece of burning coal the devil threw at him, it wasn't meant to haunt him, it was the first ember of a brand new kind of power. And finally, the cradle. That little hollowed-out turnip wasn't just a lantern to light his way, it became the vessel, the cradle, for a whole new philosophy. And what was that philosophy? This quote says it all. The will creates its own light in the void. Just let that sink in. Jack didn't need light from heaven. He didn't need fire from hell. In the absolute emptiness where they left him, his own sheer force of will became his sun. He was literally and philosophically lighting his own way.
But here's the thing. Realizing you're free and powerful is one thing. Actually becoming something more, that's the next level. And this next part of the story is where things go from a simple act of defiance to a full-blown cosmic power-up.
So, it really boils down to this question. You have this unstoppable, absolute will in the form of Jack. What happens when that will stumbles upon pure, raw, divine potential?
The answer is simple and brutal. He didn't ask, he didn't bargain, he just consumed it.
So, out there in the abyss, Jack comes across the leftover energy of a fallen seraph, an angel basically, a being of light that got unmade because it rejected the strict rules of its home. A kindred spirit, you could say. Now, a normal person would cower, right? Or maybe beg for power. Not Jack. He just sees potential, and he seizes it, merging that corrupted holy essence with his own bottomless greed and self-interest.
And the effect was instantaneous. That tiny little spark of his own will, that coal in his turnip, is suddenly doused in divine gasoline. It doesn't just glow anymore. It erupts into a full-blown inferno. The transformation was officially on.
So, what comes out of that fire? It's definitely not Stingy Jack anymore. This is the birth of something else entirely.
First up, he becomes what the source calls the corrupted Übermensch. He completely sheds that old nickname, Stingy. He's now the living example of self-overcoming. That whole system of good versus evil that judged him and kicked him out, it's now just a petty squabble way, way beneath him. It's totally irrelevant.
Next, he's the sovereign sorcerer. He's now wielding hell magic, but not like some warlock who sold his soul. No, he is the master. He's twisting the very laws of cause and effect that were supposed to keep him trapped. And that eternal wandering? It's not wandering anymore. He's not lost. He's on the hunt. He's become a predator of the absolute.
And finally, that last piece of his curse becomes his ultimate weapon.
The turnip lantern cracks and reforms into a conduit for just raw, untamed power. And out of it pours something called pandemonium flames, a crazy, multicolored fire that doesn't even need oxygen to burn. And get this, it doesn't just destroy things, it dismantles concepts. It can literally burn away the idea of morality or consequence. It's unmaking the very rules of the game.
So let's just take a step back and look at the big picture here. This being is no longer just reacting to his fate. He's actively hunting reality itself.
And the most important thing to get is this. The greedy little trickster from the folktale, he's gone. He is dead. That identity was completely incinerated in the fire of his transformation.
So who is he now? This quote sums it up perfectly. He's not a person anymore. He's an idea. He is sovereign will made manifest. His entire existence is now a constant act of carving his own reality, his own dominion, out of existence itself.
So what we're left with is a higher being, a new god, a terrifying, magnificent god of trickery, of debt, and of that searing green fire. And ultimately, he's a living testament to a very dangerous idea, that a life built on absolute, ruthless, uncompromising will doesn't just follow its destiny, it forges its own.
And that leaves us with one final, pretty chilling question to chew on. If damnation itself can be forged into a crown, then what really is destiny? Is it some path that's written in the stars for us? Or is it just the raw material, waiting for anyone with enough will to come along and build something new?